mentioned Geno Smith earlier, and I can't remember why, but I know the name came out of my mouth. One of the realities of his contract that he signed last year, the Seahawks have the ability, it's a 3-year deal, and we're approaching lie about the value of contract season, and reporters lie to the audience about it too, knowing damn well they're lying to the audience about it. I mean, really, folks, a lot of these, I'm not going to name names, but all of them that traffic in letting you know who signed where. Part of the quid pro quo to get the group text from the agent, is you have to tell everybody the numbers the agent tells you without pausing to think it might be bullshit. So just know that's coming, and you'll get the truth here and at ProFootballTalk.com about what these contracts are worth. Geno Smith, 3-year, $100 million deal. Oh, no, wait, it's more like 3 years, 75, and it's not 3 years, it's year to year. The Seahawks had the ability, because I think the ship has sailed, because if he's on the roster today, yesterday was the day they had to get him cut by 4 p.m. Eastern time. He's not. He's got a fully guaranteed 2024 base salary of $12.7 million. He's got another $9.6 million in roster bonuses that become fully guaranteed on March 18. But this was the big chunk. This is the $12.7 million. So Shefty reported yesterday, after we pointed out to everyone this is the day that the Seahawks have to pay or get off the pot, Shefty reported they are going to allow that $12.7 million to become fully guaranteed. And it doesn't really surprise me, because it's only $12.7 million. That's a bargain. Even you throw in the other 9.6. I mean, low $20 million for a starting quarterback is a steal as veterans go. The only way you're getting a better deal than that is to draft a guy and put him on the field right away. So it's a good deal. And if they would cut him before the $9.6 million hits, well, okay, we have offset language in our contract. He goes somewhere else, and we're going to get credit for that, whatever he makes somewhere else. I don't know how much he's going to make somewhere else, but I think that's part of the process, that it doesn't have to be absolutely positively he's our starting quarterback. They still have some flexibility, even though $12.7 million of salary for next year is now fully guaranteed for Geno Smith.
Yeah, they do have flexibility, but I think when you're the Seahawks right now and you look at what Geno Smith has done over the last couple of years, it makes sense to keep him around. I mean, he was not as good in 2023 as he was in 2022, but he was still very, very effective. I mean, you're still talking about somebody who had a 65% completion rate, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. So, they did not make it to the postseason. That's part of why they replaced Pete Carroll. But I think if you're Mike McDonald, you're John Schneider, you're looking at the landscape of quarterbacks, you could still have Geno Smith in there, use him as the proverbial bridge guy to whoever is next. If you decide that somebody in this crop of QBs is the next guy for you, that means you don't necessarily have to rush that next guy in and play, because you have somebody who is reliable and da-da-da-da-da. And you can do the Alex Smith approach in 2017, right? You can do what the 49ers in theory were trying to do with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. So, let that guy sit for a little bit until he's ready to play. So I think all of that makes sense, especially at the contract level where Geno Smith is. You're not even talking about paying him really $30 million. Like, that's a crazy good bargain for a veteran quarterback who has been good over the last 2 years.
And it could have been north of $30 million this year for Geno Smith. And this is the best example as to why he did regress in comparison to 2022. He had 5 different factors in his contract, each of which would have increased that roster bonus I mentioned, that $9.6 million, by $2 million each, up to $10 million more in that roster bonus that's due. And they were factors that were statistical: touchdown passes, yards, completion percentage, team wins and playoffs. There was one more, I can't remember what it was, passer rating. He didn't match 2022 in any of those. He didn't hit a single one of the 5 $2 million triggers that would have bumped that 9.6 higher and higher and higher and higher. It's one of the reasons why the initial reporting was crap of 3 years, $100 million, because as the agent put it out there, it had all that stuff in there like he was definitely going to earn it. $10 million he could have earned for this year, gone forever, because he regressed in 2023, relative to what he did in 2022. But at that rate, and also, even though it's a new coaching staff, the same GM is there. And John Schneider's fully in charge now. He's the guy that signed him and paid him. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? How do you not go forward with a guy, and it's all dollar for dollar? What are we getting dollar for dollar? For low $20 million, it's a damn good deal. His performance more than justifies that amount. So we go forward, and it may be an Alex Smith, Patrick Mahomes situation if they would only be so lucky to draft a guy who becomes Patrick Mahomes. But an idea where Geno plays this year, and then next year the baton gets handed to someone else. Here's new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb, who was with the University of Washington. Then he was with Alabama, and now he's back in Seattle as the offensive coordinator. Here he is yesterday talking about what stands out about Geno Smith.
I think he's got good presence. I've been impressed with, his decision-making. I thought, last year in 22, I think he led the league in completion percentage. I think that says a lot in this league when you talk about how hard those decisions are, number one, and then how tight the windows are. So to be productive at that level and be the best in the league at it, I think says a lot. I think he pushed over 65% last year, so it just shows that he's got the ability to be accurate and, make good decisions, and that's what, ultimately you need a guy that can lead, be smart, tough, and dependable, and make good decisions. And I think Geno is more than capable of doing that.
It's funny. When the head coaches are hired, it becomes business suit season because it's the press conferences. And I think this year, most of the guys didn't actually show up with business suits. Mike McDonald, for example, went with the Andrew Whitworth collection of the hoodie with a sport coat over top of it. Now we're into, so that's what that guy looks like season. With all these new coordinators, that was the first thing I thought. Oh, that's what he looks like. Ryan Grubb. There, I can put a face to the name. There he is. Yeah. That's him.
He looks like Dan Quinn.
So
I know that they were rumored to have hired Dan Quinn or wanting to hire Dan Quinn, and they end up hiring a guy that looks like Dan Quinn to coach offense. That's at least what I thought there. One thing about Grubb, he knows Michael Penix Jr. probably better than anybody else in the evaluation of quarterback process heading into this draft. So that's another one where you look at it and you say, okay, you got Geno Smith, but is somebody going to be coming in there to be next? Now, nobody is going to know what's Michael Penix Jr.'s capability, his ceiling, what have you, than that guy right there. So I at least think that's something we got to consider heading into this draft.
Oh, it's an excellent point. Now, like all quarterbacks entering the NFL, we don't know what they're going to be able to do in the NFL until they get to the NFL. That's the great unknown. I remember with Deshaun Watson, when he was drafted the same year Patrick Mahomes was drafted, there was concern that he had too many interceptions at Clemson. If you have a lot of interceptions at the college level, you come to the next level where the target gets smaller. And, what happened? The target got smaller and Deshaun Watson got more accurate. So a lot of this stuff we're not going to know until they get there. But if anyone is in a position to estimate what the projection will be, it's Ryan Grubb. The problem is I don't think Ryan Grubb has a whole lot of NFL experience. He might have had 1 year. When he was first mentioned as a potential candidate, I went back and looked at his background. He might have 1 year, at most 1 year, with an NFL team. So it's not like he can really make the kind of clear projection that somebody who's been college and pro coach can make if we're talking about, do I think this quarterback can get it done at the next level? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They like Geno Smith enough to pay him low $20 million, or at least to guarantee $12.7 million and still have more flexibility going forward. I mean, they could trade him. Easy contract to trade. Attractive contract to trade. If there's some other team out there that decides this is who we want. The Steelers, I think, are going to get somebody. I mean, all due respect to Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. Good Lord, you could throw a rock and hit a better quarterback than either of those two guys right now. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but I mean, look, this is big boy football. You got to show me that you belong as a starting quarterback in the NFL. And Kenny Pickett, in 2 years in the NFL, has done nothing a single time other than the game against the Ravens when he saw George Pickens in single coverage and he hit him deep and they won the game with that throw. Kenny Pickett has done nothing to make me say, wow, there's an NFL quarterback. Wow, this guy's got something. wow, this is a player to build around. It's all very meat and potatoes, and not expensive meat and potatoes. Like boxed mashed potatoes and Salisbury steak is all it's been so far. And hey, prove me wrong. Kenny, you don't like it? Prove me wrong. You don't like, I'm not the one that benched you for Mason Rudolph, okay? They kind of, I mean, it's not like there was an outcry in Pittsburgh when the local guy, not that he grew up in Pittsburgh, but he played at Pitt. It's not like anybody lost their mind when the guy got benched for Mason freaking Rudolph that most people forgot was even in the league. So my point is this. There's options if they decide they want to trade him, because the Steelers would, I think, love to have Geno Smith. Geno Smith would walk through the door as the starter and be much better than anything that they had last year. So anyway, I know that was mean to Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, but I also think it was accurate.
Yeah, well, it was mean, wasn't it? What are you doing to me, man?
Oh,
I mean, look, I also
our last
think
show
that,
for 10 days. I'm emptying the tank.
Yeah, I see that. I think that there are options with Geno Smith. I think he would be an upgrade for the Steelers as well. And I don't know that you can throw a rock and hit a better quarterback, but there are definitely better options out there than Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I know who couldn't throw a rock and hit a better quarterback. Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.